Welcome to a new spirit that will warm your heart. Welcome to a new spirit. Every day's a brand new start. Where encouraging words can heal your soul and dreams will be renewed. Welcome to a new spirit, a new spirit in you.
I'm so jealous. I've never had stigmata. Welcome to the New Spirit radio show by the Society of Novus Spiritus, founded by world-renowned spiritual teacher Sylvia Browne. Well, I wrote today's date as March 22 of 2023, so I hope we all agree with that. Coming to you live from California? Yeah, some people call it that. California, both NorCal and SoCal are your hosts, Reverend Tom Bigley and MIT Catherine Taylor, playing audio segments we call Messages from Spirit. Why? Answering the ultimate question, why are we here and what is our purpose?
These segments are recorded trance sessions from Francine, Sylvia's spirit guide. So for new people, Sylvia was a full trance medium, which means Sylvia contracted to let her and Francine's essences exchange places in Sylvia's body. And we think of our bodies being similar to a car, where one driver gets out and another driver gets in. This allowed Francine to share spiritual knowledge with us directly from the other side.
On occasion, another master teacher and healer, a guide named Raheim, would exchange with Sylvia and present us with spiritual information as well. Francine and Raheim shared directly from sources like the Akashic Records, Mother and Father God, our spirit guides, Christ, and many others.
And meanwhile, during trance, Sylvia would sit on a nice bench in a rose garden on the other side.
And here are our hosts, MIT Catherine Taylor and Reverend Tom Bigley.
Hello, how
Howdy
is it going?
Do. Great. We're here. I got tea.
Fantastic.
Let's see. I see we're on YouTube. I hope we're on Facebook.
Yes.
Working well on Facebook.
YouTube.
So exciting. The internet gods are being kind, being helpful. For those of you that are new, I'll read off our agenda here. Yes, we have an agenda, and we like to be clear about it. So real quick, we love to share about how we used Novus philosophy in the last week. And for those of you that have been on before, now's a fun time to start thinking about and posting in the chat or comments. Well, how did you use Novus philosophy in the last week? Then we get into announcements. Then we have a special prayer and a moment of silence. Then we get to listen to some new trend segments. We can share in a meditation. I talk about some closing notes, and then we have a special prayer service that everybody is invited to participate in, the novena. Following that, I'll talk about some appreciation, and then we conclude with a prayer by Sylvia.
Wonderful.
Next feat is here we go. And you're welcome to light one at this time for yourself as well, if it's appropriate for the location. Or, we're known to use those little LED imitation ones too. So here we are. Announcements. Real quick. Announcements are, please do share, promote, like, subscribe, click on the bell, and when you can, donate. You can go directly to the website, novus.org, and put in a donation of your choice. That would be helpful to keep us moving forward. Also, I was reading comments, and I can't remember if I read this last week or not, but it's still sitting here. So, let's see, for April, it does say for April, what? April 2023, David is apologizing for his rant on YouTube. 420. Well, okay, that doesn't. Now I don't remember. I saw something somewhere. Oh, I know what it was. I got an email that somebody was apologizing. Well, David was apologizing for his rant on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, I accept your apology. I wanted to make sure I made a note of it. So Unfortunately, if yes, sometimes we get influenced by the wrong things or different things than what we believe in, and apology accepted.
That's very
The
graceful. Gracious.
Chris readings. There's a special for the month of March for well, not general questions, for questions. Not an in person or over the phone, but it sounds like a special question. Special question special. Yeah, there you go. Go to the website chrisrightnow.com and you'll be able to read the details there. Let's see. Also, we've been encouraged over the years not to, if we're not, when it comes to the material that has been presented to us from Francine or Raheim and Sylvia, we're not supposed to quote things. So I've asked on occasion that you point us out if we're saying things and sounds like we're trying to quote. Let us know. We're fallible at some point, and we do our best to, what we've been encouraged is to make it our own. Make it it's what we're sharing, and it's so easy to say, well, Sylvia said or Francine has said. Well, yeah, what we ought to be doing when we're wanting to say it like that is, here's the information, here's the source of information, or read from the source of information. Otherwise, it's like, oh, well, I recall, or this is how I recall it, or how I understood it. So keep us on the up and up for that. So look forward to hearing from everyone. Where, what, how? I did announcements. So now's the fun part of how did you use Novus Spiritus philosophy that last week? Do you want to do rock, scissors, paper, or do you want to choose?
I would love to hear what you experienced of Novus philosophy.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Okay, stillness. Love
Nothing. I didn't. Unfortunately, didn't make any notes. So that was my contribution.
Interesting. It's okay. We just, spirit moves us when it does, and that's perfectly all right and good. For myself, I have been reflecting on some of the. I've been reflecting more and more about wanting to go back into the Gnostic Gospels.
Ooh.
So those are the writings that are in the Nag Hammadi library. That was Raheim's pronunciation, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and to actually go through and read what some of those writings were about. And so I started doing that, and so because I find myself reading. I've found myself just in my spare time when we are in our states of like watching TikTok or YouTube to just calm down and relax. I've been going through like finding voices of people who are leaving evangelical Christianity to find like a more Gnostic take without them necessarily having the word for it. And so that's really encouraging to see that there are pastors out there that are on that journey to say like, no, Christ was about love. Like God is about love. Like get away from all of this hell stuff. And so that's really, really encouraging to see that there are people who are coming out very vocally about that. And so I found myself like offering comments that are saying like I just have fully named myself as like, I'm a Gnostic minister in training and lifelong Gnostic, and just explaining what that means, and said like, what you're saying, like the Gnostic interpretation of this is this, and you can find it in this like in this way, or so anyway, I found myself today thinking about this dichotomy of people really, really, really wanting more source material. Maybe they aren't in a place of wanting to go towards a psychic like immediately, even though Jesus was the ultimate psychic. but I was like, well, it's, all these texts are right there. And I'm like, I just want to be able to know exactly which gospel to point them in if people are curious and they're looking for super old source material, because the Nag Hammadi library has books that have Jesus talking about soul being reincarnated and being similar to like a candle that is lit in life, and then sometimes it's not lit, but it's still the same candle, because he was trying to educate people that no, we have a soul. It's not just a body. We have a soul. And so there's Jesus talking about Mother God, and there's like Jesus providing all sorts of different things that unfortunately didn't make it into the Bible, but they're still amazing, incredible writings. And so that's where my spark of curiosity has led me. And one of the things that one of the Jesus quotes from, I think, the Gospel of Thomas. I think now here I am. I need to. Here I am. I'm saying I'm naming it for myself. I want to know which one I'm pointing to. But Jesus, like I've talked about this before. So Jesus said something amazing, saying, "If you do not, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Mm-hmm. And so I've spent some time thinking about that one over the last course of the year, and thinking about how I need to apply that to tackle my own anxieties about different things, and seeing how that is playing out in a very, very like deep and personal level. And so,
wow.
But it's positive. It's positive. So that's what's been on my mind over the last week. So
can I ask what you haven't brought out?
What I haven't brought out, I haven't brought out as much as I need to. Now, see, this is a struggle, because I'm still in the process of succinctly defining it. I'm trying to understand what. I'm trying to reorient my relationship to time and how time works. And I feel like I put the stopper on anyone pressing me to do anything that is like, if it's not in my own time, then I don't want to do it. And that's not realistic, and that's not helpful. And that's not the way that one should be living their life in. Like, it needs to be give and take. And and so when I find myself having these thoughts, then it starts to fall into the like familiar patterns of procrastination with getting something done. It's like, well, now I feel like I'm procrastinating, or now I feel like I'm lazy. And none of those things are necessarily true. It's just, I am not bringing forth this truth about looking at my relationship to time, and looking at my relationship to what is really going on really deep down underneath there. And that's like, am I having this like kind of weird, misplaced, passive aggressive reaction to not wanting other people in my past or even past lives having pressed me to do things that I didn't want to do? And so now am I playing that out? And so by me not confronting that, then I am enacting a self-sabotage in my present to getting things done that I need to get done in some arena.
Right.
So
right. There you go. Cool.
that was heavy lifting.
Self-reflection. Yeah.
But I'm glad to share. So.
But along those lines, I got a fortune in a fortune cookie that said, "You will discover a hidden talent."
Ooh, I love this. I love this.
Speaking of, bringing out what's within you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. What do we got in the comments?
In
Who's
the
been sharing in the comments?
Oh. I think a lot of folks are saying hello, which is wonderful. Yes, and here is your time to share. What have you shared? What have you done and used of Novus philosophy over the past week? It's your time to share it. And as you post your comments, we will be excited to read them. So a few comments. Miss LJ says, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Spring Solstice, and may we be blessed with our deepest dreams to
Oh, yeah.
uplift, motivate, and inspire our soul purpose. May love, health, and wealth walk with us always. What a beautiful prayer. Thank you so very much for sharing that. And over on Facebook, Ron, hello. Hello, Ron, one of our longest listeners.
Yeah.
Just warms my heart. Ron says, a week ago Monday, I had a dream about someone knocking on my door. And the same last Tuesday as well. Last week on the call, we talked about dreams and to ask ourselves what they might be saying. I thought about it. I thought I'd done this years ago, but I said, Jesus, come into my heart. Knocking in my dreams ended last Wednesday night. That is amazing. That is amazing. Thanks, Kat and Tom and Sylvia, for making those comments last week. That is really, really neat. And that reminds me of like the times where on the podcast they've talked about knock and it shall be open to you, and that's very Gnostic.
That's in the Bible. That's Jesus
Mhm.
Jesus's phrase.
Yeah.
I have the my version, or how I recall it. It's because I don't recall exactly how it's written in the Bible. But yeah, knock and it shall be open. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you.
Yes. But that's really wonderful too to think about, because not only do we knock, but also like God in a way knocks on our door as well to get us to pay attention.
Yeah.
And to open the door.
On
Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Sometimes it's a burning bush, which doesn't happen very often. It's like once in a lifetime. Did you get like a huge burning bush, a huge thing? But it's all the little ways, all the little things too, like in a dream. Knock, knock. That's really
Cool.
sweet, Ron. I'm so glad that you had that experience and that you shared. Thank you. And Ron says it was totally amazing. That's just gives me warm fuzzies. It's wonderful. Got a question from a poster on Facebook. Azna Martinez says, was God I think psychic? And Jesus was an incredible psychic. So I think that's what might be what that comment is asking. Jesus was like an amazing psychic. And and Sylvia has talked about in her books about prophecy that the Bible is full, like chock full of prophets. But what is a prophet? A prophet is a psychic. It's someone who's able to reach into the future and be able to communicate what it is that they're experiencing in the future and sensing about the future. So
reading the Akashic records.
Yes, reading the Akashic records. Yes.
A quick cipher. The sounded like the first thing you said was God psychic, and I want to clarify for everyone. For Novus, for us at Novus, God and Christ are two different individuals. They're two different entities. I know there's many beliefs that feel that Christ was God, incarnate, and that's not. We don't believe that. So just as clarification. And answering that, was Christ a psychic? Yes. Is God psychic? Well, that's a challenging.
Arguably.
Well, but
you have to.
Well, think of it.
Really?
If God, Father God, was psychic. See, I'm thinking, not knowing the full extent of God's knowledge, but just from my perspective, if God was psychic, that's a debatable issue, because if he was psychic, he'd know what. In one sense, yes, I could see being psychic or knowledgeable enough to know, hey, I got to create a whole bunch of splinter pieces to get so many different perspectives on events, life events and life experiences. So that's, to my understanding, that's why he created all us individuals. His emotion was broken into with a bazillion pieces, and Mother and Father God added intellect to those pieces that created individual wholes, with emotion wholes, individual entities, which that's what makes up you and I. The forethought was to make the splintering that I recall Francine's story about. But as far as the outcome of things, we're still experiencing those things.
Yes.
I think of the psychic ability is getting into, we've written our charts of experiences that we want to have, the good and the bad, and that's for Father God to help us play out those scenarios here. Well, that's what's, I think, is being recalled, is that what we've written out. Do things change? Yeah. So, the, when you say Father God is psychic, that's like, well, how does he?
Also,
Why would he need to be?
yeah, why would he need to be? Sylvia, because Sylvia says all psychic ability comes from God,
Right.
comes from comes from God. So that was what she said her ability came from, which is which is really really fascinating. I remember a few times where we've talked about the chart of planet Earth, and
Mm-hmm.
that planet Earth is very difficult to chart, and that nations have charts as well. And so sometimes we've gotten predictions about what a nation will be doing in the future, not just an individual, but how a nation is going to do with like their the economy or with healthcare or different laws or any like things like that, as well as
Right.
how the
Right.
Earth is going to do as a chart. They've said it's very difficult for this planet to chart and make predictions for any psychic because of how much uh, darkness and chaos, and just it's very very difficult to chart. But we've heard like discussions on the other side where Azna, Mother God, has come into the room and said she's making a change to the chart for whatever reasons that God
Right.
has. And that's who are
For
we to
for
say no?
example, the time for the end of this planet, the time for the end of
Mm-hmm.
things for this particular planet, and um, um, yeah. So
Yeah,
it, but it still fits, fits all of us, or that's the intent, is it's going to fit for the greater good for all of us.
yeah, for the greater good of all of us. Yeah.
Hope
It's
that
fascinating
answered.
discussion, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating discussion. Very philosophical. Very philosophical. Good to wonder
Who's
about.
next?
Who's next? Okay. Um, I am not seeing any other questions or any other comments about what did you use of Novus philosophy. But if anyone has more to share, I'll be really happy to uh, happy to read them. Happy to read them to
Cool.
everyone. So very very cool. Um, all right, what's next?
Special prayers.
Special
So,
prayers, wonderful.
if you what you feel, okay, great. But special prayers. Now it's time we'd like to do a, moment of silence, and would like to encourage everyone, regardless of when you're watching, if it's live or on demand, put that energy out there. There's no time on the other side, so they can put things where they're needed when they're needed. And if you think of something tomorrow, great. Think of it and say, hey, I want to put it in the bucket of when we're all praying for this. So, uh, um, you've got something in mind, visualize the outcome you'd like to see, for that individual or yourself. If you want to keep it private, you can go to the website and post it on the prayer chain at novus.org. But for now, we're just going to put energy out. We're all going to put it out together and ask for Mother God and the archetypes and archangels to get out there and help in those needs that we're seeing. So let's take a moment of silence and say, go. Amen.
Amen.
And of course, be the prayer. If you see a need, fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, we are doing pretty good with that. For new people, if you're streaming challenged and or there's a timing issue and streaming's not good for you, we have a solution for that. There's a conference call that's listening in, and there are several people there listening on the conference call, either with or without video. You're invited to listen in there while we are live. We're sending this audio to our conference call. So that phone number, if you'd like, is 888-534-2696. You're invited to jump on there. We've had people in the past driving down the freeway, and of course that's not appropriate streaming, live video. So there's the phone call. People have listened in on their phone in the car, so that's an option. Do appreciate that you keep muted, so that everybody has a wonderful listening session.
I hit the refresh button because I was wondering if maybe I wasn't getting comments, and I see a lot of comments that I would love to share.
Okay, we can take a moment for that.
Okay. Within says, asked Azna for a yellow rose. My wife bought my yellow flowers to plant in our new garden. Thanks.
Cool.
Azna. That's so precious. That's really, really neat. Miss LJ says, my Novus week was a mental and physical cleansing. This included social media, physical items, and catching myself removing any and all watching or reading any negative comment. Good for you. Content. I reach at my enough. All right. Good for you. Naomi shares, I asked God some questions, and by morning I had answers and infused knowledge. Thanks again, God. Beautiful and wonderful. Ramona
Crying
says,
ears want to know what that is. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Only if you feel comfortable
Only
sharing.
if you want to.
Yeah. Ramona says, I've been trying to focus on miracles every day instead of negative things. Oh, girlfriend, that is so tough to do sometimes, but good for you. That is really, really good brain training. And I've been doing similar over the last couple months as well to really, really push back. Get this anxiety out
also
here.
pester your guide and say, hey, can you explain what you're trying to do? I want to help defocus on one thing and watch for the others. If it's just about appreciation of what is around us, that's okay. That's fun too. But if you want a sample of something that you can, something unique and that's pertinent to you, ask for it. And for kind of like for lack of a better term, a burning bush. Carry something that you can carry with you into the future and remind you, oh my God, when we're getting negative thoughts of, oh my God, nothing ever happens right, nothing ever goes right, I've got so many that bring tears to my eyes that it's like, well, I have a plethora of fun stories of those. Those aren't coincidences, but anybody else you talk to about, nah, it's just a coincidence. So anyway, fun. You pester your guide.
Yes, wonderful. And just two more comments. One's a comment, one's a question. Paula says, hello, Paula. I used to listen to the past shows on demand. Every time there would be something mentioned that I was going back through at that time. And we will get the on demand up and figured out. Yes, it was top of the docket. She continues, a couple weeks back, I had strep throat, and strep throat was mentioned at least 3 times on your show. Thank you. Welcome. Whew, it's fantastic. And
also, go into Journey of the Soul topic 3, the
yes.
the big design book.
Yes.
The design book. There's some different helpful things there. But again, we don't want to hear that you've died from it either, because of go see your doctor if it's going to help.
Yes, sometimes you need a doctor and you need the antibiotics, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. All right. A couple more things. Linda shares, hi Linda. Yes, I ask my guide and the archangels for assistance all the time. I love them. I'm so grateful for the love. That's fantastic. And then very last, Azna Martinez says, "What do you think of Holy Bible by Lamsa?" We love Holy Bible by Lamsa. That is a fabulous translation.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
yeah,
I
by
was
George
like,
Lamsa.
I didn't know he did. When you first said it, I was thinking he just wrote one, or no? Yes, the translation is
His
fascinating.
translation. Yeah, his translation is fascinating. So, for anyone who's not familiar with George Lamsa was a biblical scholar who grew up in the one remaining place on planet Earth that still speaks Aramaic, and he was just in love with God, in love with with scriptures, and so he went to go be a biblical scholar and actually see the original text. And he was reading it and was like, wait a second, in Aramaic. Yeah, he went to go look at the Aramaic text themselves. Is like, wait a second, these translations aren't exactly what's actually written here. So for instance, we're like the root word for sin is like he was saying is actually a term for art, like a term in archery that means to miss the mark. And so if there's all of this pressure that has come out of religion on this idea of sin, and if sin was originally just saying like, no, you're just making a mistake, you took an aim and you missed, like it's just a much gentler take. It's a much more gentle read on the Bible. And then he also said like there's only 3 places that actually mention the devil or Satan, and it's always in every other time it's like the non-personification of evil was Satan. It's like no, this root word is not the devil, it's the non-personification of evil. It's saying like evil is bad. So so the George Lamsa Bible is wonderful, very, very fascinating read. And
I think it's on our reading list too.
Yeah, I think it is on our reading list. Yeah, recommended reading list. Really, really interesting.
My fascinating one is his little book called Idioms of the Bible. That one's
yes.
fun. I mean, I have fun with idioms, learning the different idioms from different languages and their the origins and the stories behind them. But that's a fun one to read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, fantastic. What's next?
Thank you for sharing.
Next? Yes. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
It says, "Please keep muted." All right.
Okay.
No, I just can't. That's what it says on my thing. No. Next is trance segments.
Okay, trance segments. Here we go. So we are at the end of a trance series, which means it is Potpourri night. And Raheim this time, usually it's Francine, but Raheim is hosting Potpourri night, and he's going to be taking questions on a variety of topics. And today is just amazing. We're into a real treat. So, well, I pull this up.
Now I get okay. I'm freaking out over here. That's why I'm like, what is she talking about? No, we're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Because
good.
I missed the part where you said we're starting another trance.
Yes.
If that's what I recall. Now I recall you saying that. Sorry. My notes are like, yeah, but I'm starting a trance. Now I recall. Yes, the last class, because we used to do them in a series of 5. 5 classes, and the 5th class, as you said, it's the Potpourri.
Cool. Yeah, so all right, so we are talking in the first segment about and this is April 1st, 1996 is the date of this trance. So details about Azna's festivals and the Festival of Lights, what that looks like on the other side. Van Gogh and Monet have been directors of some of these festivals. God laughs a lot. Christ is always available. And, that was my last note for this, so here we go.
All right. Take notes.
This is a treat for me. Yesterday, Raheim was in also. Told us great and wondrous things, which he will not share with you.
Tonight is ask any question you would like about any of the material that we have covered so far. I think I've only done this a few times. I did it in where we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Usually Aina handles the potpourri. I will do it tonight. I found it to be very, very invigorating. I liked it a lot. It reminded me so much in the days when I taught and there was a give and take of information. So anything that is contained within the philosophy that has been covered or not covered at this point, you are very free to ask me any question. Yes.
You touched upon Azna's celebration on the other side where we have arches of flowers. Could you tell us a little bit more?
It's very much like an arbor. We wind the flowers. Now, an interesting sideline of that is that we can think those into place if we so choose. The only time we ever think anything into place is when we're in a hurry. Most of the time we still love to make the festivities or the festivals with colored silk, with the flowers, with the fountain. And we actually build all these. And then of course we have the big gatherings, we have the rituals, we have the very much like you would call the celebration of lights. That's the only time where we ever ask for dark, because as you know, we stay at twilight all the time. Your summer's dusk is our light. Right at the point when the sun has just gone down and the sky is still that beautiful hue. That's the only time we ask for night is during some of the festivals. We ask for night to come because it makes it beautiful to see these thousands and thousands and thousands of lights. And then what we have is the angels and the archangels come and they're all carrying lights. And so up above and all around us look like flickering firelights. And it's quite beautiful. Quite beautiful.
Not necessarily a frivolous question, but to orchestrate such grandiose things, you sometimes need a director. Who gets that honor, and do you use any of the Hollywood directors that have passed over?
It's not a frivolous question. We have used many directors. We have used many artists. One year we had Van Gogh directing the process. One time we actually used Monet.
Now you're talking.
We use people that have been, we actually ask the levels to come up. And not to come up for your vernacular, like the husbandry, the gardeners and the people that deal with animal husbandry, and we ask them to come over, I should say, because that's a different quadrant.
Yeah.
And so they come over and they bring their tigers and their elephants, and then the great horticulturists come with their new hybrids, and so it's quite a big orchestration of committees and a director, and usually a lot of sub-directors.
Oh, have to be.
Yeah. It's the same thing, I think, as you'd call your, the time when you have your floats.
Oh,
Right.
But it's much more extravagant than that. You're talking about millions of souls that come to this.
nice.
Yes.
Does Christ come around a lot to us on the other side, or do we have to seek him out?
No. No, that's a tragedy that religion has purported, that he seems to be elevated to the point that no, he's amongst us all the time. A very interesting question was asked of me, and Aina may have answered this, I don't know, but to go along with what your question was, which is very interesting. And I have never gotten the chance to answer, so I will. Is some lady to my right asked me what form God took. And I have seen God the Father possibly 4 times in actuality, in all the years that I've lived, which is all the years God has lived.
It's forever.
Azna never changes her shape. Even though she's been formed to be Mexican, Native American, Asian, she never changes her visage. She stays the same. She holds her shape very well, and I don't mean that as a play on words. Her edges do not blur, his do. Does that mean that his power is greater, hers is lesser? No. She seems to be more of what we call the descended goddess. The descended goddess means she's part and parcel more of humanity than he is. He is much more elevated to the static position. One time I saw him as a very young, light-haired male. Another time I did see him once, not as an old man with a beard, but a very elegant-looking gentleman. Another time I saw him as a very tall, dark-haired male. The fourth time I saw him, he was, again, a blonde youth. But his shape cannot be held for any length of time. So I'd say at least 3 to 4 minutes your time. And it's hard for me with your time and my time, which is no time, to regulate what that would be. So the only way we can always do that we know that we're pretty well in sync, and what we've always done with Sylvia, is we count with her. So we count 1,001, 1,002, and then we're pretty sure of our time because we're both counting the same cadence. That's the only way we'd know seconds. So with that in mind, I'd say maybe 3 to 4 minutes, and then he blurs. His voice is always heard at any time we wish him to be heard. We hear his laughter rolling through the hills, as we call it, and he laughs a lot. Christ is always available. Christ, if you're walking with another person, let's say down, because we're on the subject, the Rose Arbor, and you would say, let's say you and Vera were on the other side and you were walking, you would mention to Vera, I would really like to see our Lord now. Instantaneously, he would be there. Instantaneously.
To talk, to converse.
Converse, to walk arm in arm, hand in hand. And sometimes the thought doesn't get out of your mind, but when he's not there. Omnipotently present, he is. In figure form.
I was writing notes, darn it. Right on the end. When getting back to Monet and Van Gogh, it was fascinating, to hear that they're still revered artists on the other side, and contributors, and I stopped to think of we have at our office several paintings, the generic where you buy the Van Gogh or the Monet paintings, you hang up, the famous ones, and I stopped to think, like, okay, those are fun. Those are, many people like those things, and then I was like, wow, of those days, why was that so controversial? Well, when you compare it to what was original, a classic painting was something that was tried to be accurate, something it would look realistic. And here comes along, to my recollection of history, here comes along Van Gogh and creates these impressionistic, I forget the term used, but everybody's familiar with Van Gogh's paintings, and you compare that to a classic painting that's supposed to look real. I could see that the classic artist would be upset. Oh, that's not the way you do things. That's not, well, it's just a different way of expressing, the thoughts and ideas and creativity. And it relates. I thought of that as something similar to that we've had recently is you've got classic music and how it's evolved into jazz and rock and roll. You put those two together, they're very, very different, but yet it's just different ways of expressing creativity.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And that's what makes up this planet. The change, the ideas, and if we only heard classic music throughout, for the last 2,000 years, how does that help? How does that contribute to our evolution here?
Yeah. God, I always come back to thinking, like, just wondering about, wow, God must love wondrous variety. It's very,
Well,
very,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
oh, it's wonderful.
Well, I can understand when you said that, the way you said that, it's, to me, it almost sounds like overwhelming diversity of creativity. Well, yeah, think of all
It's incredible.
think of the source of creativity from each of the emotions that were created that make up all of us.
Yeah, it's just incredible that we all, like, because to me, when I think spark, whenever someone mentions creativity, underneath that, I'm like, oh, it's God. That's God, though. That's our spark. That's our spark that we were gifted, which is incredible. It's just that can come up with the most incredible ways to shape emotion and ideas and put it together and repackage it into something brand new and really, 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 really neat. That's just like, anytime someone talks about creativity, I'm always thinking back in my mind, like, God, that's your spark from God. That's so
Yeah.
cool. That's so cool.
That's
really, really cool.
That's a fun thought.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead. No,
I was going to. Okay. But a couple comments from YouTube. Somebody asks, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it said in a past trance that Van Gogh was dark or gray? Yes, I recall them saying that he was gray, and so it's really, really neat that it sounds like from the time that he was alive to later, that it sounds like he turned white. So good for him. That's incredibly neat. So that would be my read on that, because we know we've heard I heard in the past trances that Van Gogh said, like, well, his grayness, if you look at his paintings, they were brilliant and dark entities, and gray can be very brilliant. But you see, like, the sunflowers are kind of dead. I remember them using that analogy. It's like, oh, interesting. But good for him, whatever path that he has taken since then, to get to a place of embracing the light. So that's really, really, really nice.
A fun point about you look like you froze there. No, there you are. Okay, never mind. Why can't Father God? What came to mind listening about Father God not taking form for very long? It's like, well, why? And it has to relate to Father God's more intellect. It does have we're Father God's emotion, but Father God being intellect, Mother God being the emotion. Being having feminine, and it's all about emotion. And if you want to read more details, grab the Journey in the Soul book. It's either one or two that talks about the very similar topics.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Alyssa shares, wasn't he also a non-entity? I think talking about Van Gogh. I cannot recall exactly. I want to say yes, that his name was brought up during the non-entity discussion, but I'd have to re-listen to it again. Let's see here. A couple other comments. Miss LJ says, this is amazing to hear that Christ has taken on so many forms. Yes, they said that Christ is the only entity that they know of because he's so advanced, like so just vastly advanced that he can can bilocate as many times as he wants without losing any
Multi-
of his
yeah.
essence, which is just
Yeah.
incredible. He can be in millions of places, so it sounds like, which is just breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. Oh my goodness. But oh wow, it's so refreshing to hear him being talked about as such a friend, just a friend to all. At the instant that you need his presence, he is there to be a friend to you, which is just makes me speechless. So, which is not helpful right now, but there we are.
Well, maybe we could coin it the ultimate friend.
Yeah, the ultimate friend. Yeah. Pure report. That is what he said that he wanted to be known as, is what we heard. It's like he wanted to be known as a pure report. So it's very cool.
He's on my council.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Mine as well. Thank you for your friendship, Jesus. Oracle asks, what is a non-entity? Okay, so we talked about this, I want to say maybe 3 months ago. I want to say brand new concept, never heard before. A non-entity is it was a long class, so there was numerous numerous episodes of us listening to them talk about what a non-entity is. So apparently there are these little baby souls that God has made who are not quite entirely having a full sense of self yet. And so they go through incarnations. They can go up to like maybe 20 incarnations to get any sort of like impetus to decide if they want to actually embrace life. And if they do not, then they are brought back to the Godhead and they just go back there to
exist in
be
God's
exist in
and
mhm.
they have not been flavored. They may come in, they may incarnate, but they have not experienced life. They have not come in to experience life. They have not been flavored, not been influenced, just as we are. That's what we talk about in our chart. The lessons that we want to learn, the chart we write the good and the bad, to have our lessons. And they have not been, we learn from them. Oh, I shouldn't do that, or this would be a better thing, or I can do better than that. They don't. They've gone through their life and weren't influenced, weren't touched, have not. We like to think of our souls as being molded and adjusted and pliable, and they haven't touched it.
Yeah. That was a fascinating series to listen to. I really encourage you to go check that out because it was just amazing. It really challenged kind of like some preconceptions I had about souls and how vastly curious Father God is to have this idea of like trying to narrow down to the like the very, 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 very finest definition of what is the exact combination of qualities that are there for someone to decide that they want to embrace life. Like that's what it sounds like. That's my takeaway if I were to be wondering about it, which I am. But so they mentioned a couple people throughout history who used to be non-entities and then chose life and embraced it. And George Washington's soul was apparently one of them, the founder of America. And they said like when a non-entity decides that they're going to like take off and run, that's usually what they do. They usually just take off and run. So
as in do their advancements and embrace taking on experiences, being influenced by it, and the soul learning.
Yeah, and they are not the same as the children of the lie. Children of the lie are a very, very different concept. Yeah.
Thank you. was trying to remember the exact term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So the non-entities, they're very, very benign. They like being comfortable. They like people taking care of them so they can just do the minimum amount of possible. And they do not thrive as children in America these days because you can't let kids slip through the cracks as easily. Is what they were saying. Like, used to be that they could just slide through the cracks. They didn't have to do anything. They could just like be as boring as possible and not have to have any skin in the game at all. But it's not so easy anymore for them to be kids in America. So that's interesting. Okay. So I'm going to look over at Facebook, see what kind of comments we might have over there. Linda asks, do they say exactly what Christ looks like when we see him here? I think we're going to hear a little bit about this in the next segment or two. I think. And I also recall them saying in the past, Francine, when she talked about Jesus like at length, that he was in life, he was a more of a fairer skinned Judaic person. So he's still absolutely Jewish, but he was a little bit fairer in complexion, very luminous eyes. He, in his older years, chose to wear his hair a little bit shorter than was the custom. He liked to wear deep crimson red robes that looked very royal. I know in my near-death experience, I saw him looking very like the traditional, like unquestionably like, oh, that's like every Jesus painting ever. And he had a
Caucasian.
white robe that was trimmed with. Yeah, no, he was still like darker skinned a little bit, so like cappuccino skin.
Because think of the region that that he came from, that he was born into.
Yeah, right, the Middle East. So, yeah. So okay, so we'll hear a little bit more about that, and hopefully in a lot more detail. That would be really wonderful to hear more about. And then I've got some more questions, I think. Facebook drives me crazy. So, and my light decided to tip over, so that's always helpful as well. Do you have any thoughts, Tom, while I sort through my problems here?
I just it's think of going back to Christ, think of the region that he was born in, and many here in the U.S. My vision is what I see most people, like you said, the classic Caucasian, with dark hair and a mustache and beard, and that's for us that's not the case, and but then he also comes, just like Mother God. You ask him to come to you and show himself. He can come to you in whatever visage you're comfortable with. Mother God will come to the different races in their, matching that person's race, and so Christ can do that too.
Very cool. I say this. I've been saying this every single week. Facebook changes their layout every single time. So it used to be like you click on the video, it opens up into a different tab, and then I can read all the comments. But now it's like I click on the video and nothing happens. So I'm like, hot mess. I'm so sorry, Facebook watchers. I love you so much. I know that you're having a wonderful discussion. I'm going to try to figure out my life over here to like in our next segment. My goodness. Oh, all right. On YouTube, Oracle comments saying that Francine said that he had china blue eyes in life. I recall her saying that he had blue eyes as well. So we will get those. We will get all of those old episodes back available. And just as a reminder, there will probably be a small subscription fee. Nothing crazy, just a small subscription fee to help us be able to provide services for everybody in the community and do things that we want to do to just to provide.
Make it available for people.
Make it available. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be able to reach out and get the information.
And in the meantime, that's mentioned in several of the Journey of the Soul books. Christ's visage in life. What did he look like in life?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, are we ready for the next segment, Pray?
I am.
Perhaps? All right, so going to continue with Azna's and Om's visages. It's funny how the stigmata only happens to Catholics and nobody else. It says a lot about religion when we keep seeing Jesus in mundane objects and calling it a miracle. And some fascinating discussion about how Father God's appearance appears to be different for everybody who sees him. Fascinating.
Cool.
All right.
Ready? All right.
Ready.
Many of you bilocate, trilocate. You don't do more than trilocate because your essence gets too thin. You begin to, as we call it, smearing. You don't hold well to that. Trilocate is a jump, not for elevated beings. I've never known anyone to quadrocate. The best I've ever been able to do is trilocate, and even then I feel a little bit weak.
So we do that on the other side. So it's
You could be 3 places at once.
and it's common for a lot of it.
A lot of elevated souls can trilocate at will.
Oh, please, I have to interrupt. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. What you said yesterday, though, add on to this, struck me as incredible. But why not? You had said God will appear a little bit differently for every person.
Absolutely.
So whatever
We've all
your
been
perfect-
standing together. There was a group of about 10 or 11 of us, and our Lord appeared. God, the Father, appeared in this group of 11 of us. Philosophers, magicians, religious men. It was a group of males that it happened to. Every one of us came away with a different visage. Every one of us saw a different visage. And we began to argue. That I saw blue eyes, and I saw brown. I saw a young man, I saw an older man. I saw this, I saw that.
A fight.
And then we began to realize that God presented himself to us at that point of what we needed to see. It was very touching because one man saw the image of his father, who was a dark entity, who he wished to see and had to be revolved into a door. And God was kind enough to show him the visage of this man that he longed to see, which was very kind. So he saw the visage of his father.
So what was the purpose then of for the majority to get a different visage? Was it to please them?
To please them. Yes,
So-
because God all-knowing knows what's in the heart of the person and what they need to see.
I see.
The way my take is, whatever is perfect for you, that's how God
Perfect.
will appear.
Well, I think that's very the same as Mary appearing, which is Azna, as you well know. If she's appearing to the Portuguese, she's going to appear Portuguese. If she appears to the Hispanic population, she will be Hispanic.
I see.
But basically, she is very, very auburn-haired with huge green eyes, and she keeps that visage most of the time.
Does she appear very, very tall?
Yes, she is very tall, and she's very willowy. I would say, because I stand in my real height, 6'1", 6'1 and a half. She stands above me. She's truly Aida, the Amazonian woman. I mean, there is no, and she has no problem with, the very Viking looking, except her hair is not that fair, but she's certainly, she's Tahitian haired. With, yes, with the greenest eyes that are emerald looking. In fact, sometimes, even though they're warm, if she glances at you, they almost look agate-like. They're so sparkling.
You and Francine have always told us about making a black sky if you're trying to get an answer to something. And I'd heard that for so long, and I thought, like probably many of us, I don't know that I'll ever quite get that. And one night a few years ago, I did, and Azna was there, and words cannot explain the feeling, but that you also always said that her sword, a golden sword, and she used her sword, and it was the most incredible
picture of viewing.
Yes, and answer and relief and all of the above.
Oh,
she
yes.
was so very, very tall.
Tall. Well, she's been known. See, she can elongate. She can elongate herself to go straight across the sky if she wants. I mean, she can become mammoth, as tall as a building, and still keep that shape. I mean, she still keeps the same symmetrical shape. It's the most amazing thing.
In fact, in one of the Egyptian tombs, the goddess Nut
Yes, goes clear across.
stretches clear across.
Across, yes, the
whole
starry
sky.
sky. Yeah.
It's her domain.
Well, I think she's always felt that she was more the ruler of the night, very much like the ancient Isis or Theodora. But night has always been her dominion more than the sun or the day. Because I think she feels that more mischief is at night, more solitude is at night, more weeping goes on at night, more sorrow is at night, more illness is at night, more births are at night. She feels that that's where she's needed most, because notice through your life, everything gets worse at night. Even if you're sick, it'll get worse at night. So she rules the dominion of the night. So she likes to be visualized against the dark sky. She certainly can come in the day. For goodness sake, if you're in need of her in the daytime, you say, no, I have to wait for night. That's ridiculous. But God the Father has always been the one. The ancients really had a smart knowledge of the day God and the night God. Yes.
I wanted to ask about these miracles and other wonders that comes on TV so often. The meaning of the blaring sun and the lady that hands bleeding. And is there a
I will tell you this, that Sylvia watched that last night and threw such a fit that she made you turn it off. Of course, do I believe in miracles? I've been for years the touter of miracles.
Yes.
The champion of miracles.
Yes.
The bleeding that was going on in Stigmata was a hypnosis induced. Does that negate the fact that this isn't happening? Of course it's happening to her. She believes it is. Is this supernatural intervention? No. Now, here's the amazing thing. If a person believes that, I'm for that. If they believe all those statues are crying, if all those stupid statues are drinking milk, then let them believe it. I'm for that. Sylvia gets very, very upset over people don't realize this, I'm sure you do, you know her well enough, with all the psychability, if you go and attack it unscientifically, Sylvia flies into the face of that. She can't stand anything. She has enough stuff, she says, going on that is unscientifically cannot be proven. She can't stand all of that. Do you notice, though, what really is insanity is it only seems to happen to Catholics?
Yes.
It's the truth.
It's amazing.
The image on the tree bark.
Everything.
Oh, I saw the tree and it was
Yeah,
a
I
moth.
noticed that. I was going to ask that too.
No, the tree was a bark with the sap that dried in the sun. Now, here is the sadness and the tragedy of that. And I hope some of you, if you did watch it, saw the pathos.
Yeah.
Is that man wants so badly to have a miracle that he gets a knothole in a tree to be Jesus.
Yeah.
That says something, does it not, about what religion has done. or has, even more important, has not done for mankind. That people have to pray to a knothole in a tree.
Sylvia, once I saw a son speaking.
Raheim.
I was driving on the road and I stopped for the three people. And there was the sun was spinning and it seemed to be another circle behind that rotated.
Oh, now, Azna has caused that. Don't ever think that that is not true. Now, that part is true. This woman who speaks for Azna's furious with that. You see, you don't misquote. Instead of hooking her up, as Sylvia said today, and I was overhearing when she was talking to Michael, she said, why not hook her up to a lie detector test? Sylvia wants all the channel mediums to be hooked up to lie detector tests. She said that would put a stop to some of this.
Amen.
That would be an interesting show to watch. I mean, lie detector tests are fallible. They're not infallible.
Right.
It's, to my understanding, sociopaths are capable of falsifying those things, and it'd be fun to watch. And one of the reason I say that, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, one of the mediums that's been on television for several years, another medium, the blonde-haired lady, she Teresa.
Yeah.
Was that her name? Yeah, I think it was.
I think
Teresa.
so.
She went to visit a doctor that does mental scans and helps people with mental challenges, whether it be depression or aging or things like that, and gets these images of activity in the brain. And he did a scan on her while she was in her, while she's doing like a reading, helping somebody. And it was an interesting scan. His conclusion is she's in a meditative state.
Interesting.
When she's going with the flow and information's coming through, her brain is in a state of like meditation. And I thought that was pretty fascinating, and that's why it'd be fun to see what a lie detector test would show for people that are capable. And I've heard people recently saying that they're channeling Sylvia, and I'm like, okay, how? Because she said I'm not going to talk through, to my way I've heard it is she's not going to talk through anybody. So that's a fun thing for people to, when people are saying I'm channeling particular person, well, okay, prove it. That's one thing, and listen to what they say, validate what they're saying. I recall one lady from doing YouTube stuff. Sylvia never spoke like that. That was not the way she spoke. She didn't use the words vernacular and any of that. So anyway, besides the fact that she said she wouldn't do it.
Yeah, she said she wouldn't do it. She's like on record saying that she would only work with descendants of her own family. So okay. I believe that some folks are very well intentioned, and they might really be believing that they are having experience. So I'm not casting any judgment. I know that I've had a few people approach me saying that they were channeling a message from Sylvia, and I just listen, and I let time pass, and I was like, man, that reading had nothing to do with anything, unfortunately. But I think the people are well intentioned. I don't get upset at anyone. So
it's hard to say what that source is for those people. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not in their shoes,
right.
so
I'm not in their shoes either.
if it were me that was having that, it would be I would think of it as, my guides trying to present information that I would be familiar
Sure.
with.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah, that makes sense.
coming to me in a visage that's familiar to me. You see Sylvia in a dream, great. That's uh, um, Christ and Mother God come to us in different visages as well.
Hmm.
That's those are possibilities for those sources.
Yeah. I view it like, I view it in terms of the other side speaking to me, not necessarily through me. With regards, like, speak to but not through.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to, like, saying, like, by the way, Jesus just told me this about you. Like, I'm not going to say that too. No, no. But at the same time, it's something that like millions and millions and millions of people strive to have a connection where they feel like they are in a state where they're able to hear messages from Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And I mean, it's so I just send respect and blessings to wherever people's path is taking them. Just yeah, I just keep that I just keep that distinction in mind.
It also connects with um, talking about people are so desperate for a connection uh,
Yeah.
because they haven't learned that they can get their own connection.
Yes.
Is how I see it. It's been pounded into them for this lifetime and most probably several lifetimes that you can't get connected to them. You're not um, um, what's the right term? Worthy enough. You're not you're not worthy of that, and so we get here, and our soul says, I'm believes that, and
Mhm.
we get stuck in that and so desperately want that connection that yeah, lots of things can seem like it replaces it.
Yeah, that's such a strange juxtaposition if you think about it, because so much of Pauline, like traditional Christianity, is like, we'll say on one hand, get your own connection to Jesus, like feel Jesus in your heart, feel the Spirit talking to you, like, is the Spirit talking to you, and getting people really amped up with it. And then at the same time, they're like, but at the same time, you have to listen to the preacher, and you have to listen to the minister, and what the minister says, like, that's the spokesperson. And so it's
Right.
very
I'll
strange.
tell you
This
what.
is
I'll tell you
very
what Christ
strange.
said. Yeah.
Right. It's like, how can it be both of those things necessarily? So I I know for myself, I will probably have an evolving view of ministry throughout the entire course of my life, and I am happy to be there. I can say that for myself, how I conceptualize a healthy, like a healthier approach is to say, I'm happy to offer context, I'm happy to offer some thoughts and guidance, and to ask you, what is it that you feel is right for you? Because that is so much of what we hear Christ saying, is what is on the inside. Listen to the God within you, and start to build yourself up and trust yourself. So, thoughts.
Yep. Yep.
Thoughts. Yeah.
Cool. Any
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah, I've got some comments. Sal says, uh, welcome, Sal. And said he was excited to be able to make it here for a live show, which is interesting. Journey of the Soul series books 1, 2, and 3 have been a big part of my journey. Strongly recommend to all. Absolutely. So exciting to read. I remember reading those for the first time and just like, I felt like I was just exploding with excitement. So much fun. Reverend Yvonne Dillsworth says, hello, Gnostic family. Hello, Yvonne. Nice to see you, girlfriend. Hope you're doing well. And someone offered a comment saying perhaps Sylvia had a change of heart.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. Try to
You know,
get Sylvia to
it's-
change her mind on something.
yeah. I mean, she was when she was alive. You know, listening to the conversations about false prophets and who's channeling who and um, um, you know, we've heard her point out people that say they're channeling someone, and Francine's like, "Ah, I've never heard of them," and the fact that
Yeah.
several that she has pointed out, have created cult groups. So what does that say about the integrity of the person, the channeler, as it were? So
Yeah.
um, um, she, I recall her being adamant that no, you're not going to hear me from anybody else, and uh, I don't see because of this environment, because of where we are. She knows, knows while she was here, knew, but where she was from, where we're at. What's this environment, and what are people going to claim? But
Yeah. Here's a practical thought that I had on that as well. To the person who just asked that question, which I feel is a rational question to ask. So I asked that to myself and I said, okay, well, let me humor it. So I said, okay, so what's your reading? What's your message? Is there something actionable about my life that, is coming up? And then I let some time pass and I see how things shake out. And I've tried to really kind of manage myself about just being open-minded and a skeptic and not putting anyone down, because I do think that people genuinely when it comes to Gnosticism really do have good intentions, and are trying to flex and explore, and so I don't want to put anyone down, and that's not my intention at all, but after some time passes to see how things in life shake out, if there's not even one hit out of the many things that were offered, then it's like, okay, well, I don't think that was the hit. And then I just refer back to my own relationship with my spirit guide, and asking God, well, let me work on this problem, and I'll trust the tools that we've already been working on for a long time, of how do you listen to your spirit guide, how do you listen to God, which is which I know is a reliable tool. Again, not everything is a hit, but do my best, and that's okay. But the only person who's ever come close to giving me a reliable reading is Chris. I'll just be honest, unfortunately. So, but I do think that many people have had very, very genuine good intentions. It's just for some reason, some people just might get into a part of someone's chart that just isn't very readable, and that's all right. I'm not casting a judgment. So
that's getting back to well, I don't know, side note, adding on to why it can be challenging for Gnostics. Mystical travelers are a challenge for anyone to read.
Yeah. I remember in one of the very, very first very, very early episodes of the radio show, back when we were on Blog Talk Radio, there was an amazing series of trances about mystical travelers and where they come from. And I remember this one little gem, which is that mystical travelers have a secret mission that's only known by God and no one else. So it's like, if you try to even go get a reading about what your secret mission is as a mystical traveler, no one's going to know, because it's only known by God. It's like, okay, it's up to you to discover. That's fine. It's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. So
I will learn my hidden talent.
Exactly. That's so exciting. It's your treasure. It's like you get a treasure map from God. It's like, go figure it out. I'm like, okay. Gonna go on an adventure. All right. Romana shows, Kat, you're going to be an amazing minister. Thank you. And Tom, you are a very good reverend. I absolutely agree. Thanks so much for making me laugh also. Absolutely. Jill says, Ramona, I agree. I love being here with Tom and Kat. They complement each other very well. Thank you. High five, Tom.
Oh.
Wait.
Okay, cool. There.
For anyone who's listening on the phone, we were trying to high five each other on the screen, and we both reached for the wrong side of the screen at the same time. Oh my goodness. Whew.
I just saw
Speaking of laughs.
the YouTube. We finally, we did finally tap, but that was fun.
Oh man. Oh, kind of people are laughing in the chat, which is great. Alyssa asks, how would you know if you're a mystical traveler? Ooh, good question.
You have a label on your forehead.
Oh, yes. Need a glow pen.
That's a tough one. I mean, just from my perspective, it's not written on us. If you got a feeling that possibly you are, great. If you are, I would say, if you're inquisitive about it, and are interested in becoming it, well, okay,
that's your clue.
That's a clue that
big clue.
You may not be, but that's where you want to go. So which Journey of the Soul? Mystical Traveler.
Number 7.
Thank you. Get the Journey of the Soul, topic 7, and read through that one. There is a trance that is, I don't like the word induction. The ceremony, Mystical Traveler ceremony, that we've played in the past. So in the near future, sometime that can be available for you to go through.
Mm-hmm. And for anyone who's curious, a mystical traveler is a person who's basically like a troubleshooter, a true troubleshooter for God. And so their charts are can be a little bit wibbly wobbly and hard to track because it's like, well,
you have another agenda. You have a new agenda.
Right. You have a new agenda, which is not as set in stone because it's literally you are a troubleshooter, and it's very, very between you and God. So there's tons of movement within the chart of a mystical traveler, and I know for me, the first time I heard about the mystical traveler concept, I was like, oh, what is that? I need that. And so they said that that some people are mystical travelers from the very, very start of creation. Some people and other people have had the option to become a mystical traveler at any point in the future. And so you can fall into either category. If you find yourself sitting here and wondering like, ooh, is that am I interested in this? Am I curious about this? Then you probably have the possibility that you could become that in the future. It could be now, it could be a month from now, it could be years from now, or it could be very, very far off. When Sylvia talked about her experience with this, she said like, oh, I don't want to go that route. But then she decided, you know what, she decided in her current life, she's like, no, I'm going to take this. I'm deciding that I'm going to do this. And so she's talked about her experience. It's really, really interesting, and how she noticed herself becoming more open, more flexible. She noticed like an influx of almost intelligence, which I think that in order to be a troubleshooter, you have to have some good flexible brain power mental to tools, go along with it. Yeah. Some mental tools. Yeah. Not meant to be elitist or say that anyone is more important than anyone else. That is absolutely, I just abhor that concept at all whatsoever. But yeah, they're just troubleshooter folks, and so yeah, read the book. The book is super, super interesting and neat, and talks about what goes into being a troubleshooter, and but there is more spirituality that goes into it, and some of the tasks can be sometimes do get pretty intense, because you might end up in a situation troubleshooting that is pretty intense. Okay.
So yeah, call the
we go.
office and order
Call the
book.
office. Exactly. Alyssa says, yeah, some tarot readers haven't gotten my tarot readings accurate. It's like, yeah, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of people out there that do their best and, have good intentions, but it's different reasons why. Yeah, let's take a look. All right, so got Sylvia thinks mediums should be hooked up to lie detectors. How totems are selected. Jesus does not want another life on earth. Jesus says the Jewish folks have unfortunately not finished with their suffering on earth, and he fears for also the people of Thailand. And also Jesus fears China becoming conquerors in the future. And lastly, some thoughts about Taiwan's independence. Potpourri night, we're all over the place.
Cool. Here we go.
Cool.
And I guess because Sylvia was prodded and lit up and strapped down and poked with needles and all that for so many years, that she's really irate that these people can be hooked up to one machine, but they won't be hooked up to a lie detector. And if they're telling the truth, why should they be afraid to put a lie detector?
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a miracle that day. It was just-
Oh no, but Azna will cause the sun to roll in the sky. She did in Portugal. She did. She made the sun go out of the sky, but she is not into this dire prediction that if you don't repent, you will go to hell and fall into a fiery pit and go down to the devil.
And it's the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. And you see, that's misquoting.
That's her own agenda. It's not
And yet people are coming, such as this person by the name of Hal Lindsey, who's got everybody going to hell in a handbasket. And he calls himself a theologian. Yes.
My question, Raheim, is about totems. And I'm curious to how we come to adopt our totem. For instance, mine is a whale.
Yeah, it's a great big whale.
Do we choose our totems on this life and on Earth or on the other side?
Yeah.
Is there a lifetime?
The Native Americans always believed that the first animal you saw, this is not just, this was very indigenous to the Native American, but it's also been with all cultures that were advanced, that the first animal you saw at any given time, most of you have adopted these from your ancient, either Mayan, Native American, and the first animal or mammal or whatever that you saw, running deer, falling rain, whatever it might be, but most of the time it should have been an animal. A little fawn. It becomes your totem. Now, there can be such a thing as your affinity for a certain animal in lifetime, such as Sylvia had in India, she had an elephant that was her pet. So she adopted that as her totem. But many of you living near water, Eskimo life, adopting an animal that you really loved, and that animal then resides on the other side and protects you.
So I had an Eskimo life maybe where I saw a whale.
Game used to come to you all the time, and you were almost starving to death. You could have killed this whale and used it for blubber, but you didn't. And the whale would then, was so wonderful to you, would dive down, because you know a whale's mouth is not big. That's why Jonah and the whale is such a ridiculous story, because no whale can swallow a human. They're good enough to do algae sometimes. This whale would bring up small fish and literally push it onto the ice for you, because the whale did not knew instinctively that you were not going to kill it and didn't want you to starve because you had not killed it.
That gives me a lot more of a feeling.
For your
Although
totem.
Yeah.
Yes.
As Christ came back to us, things he crossed over a long time ago.
No.
Not
You mean and lived a life?
Yes.
No. And do you know something else? He never wants to live a life again. Now he says this. He said that in fact, it was a great lecture we listened to in your time, possibly maybe 5 days ago that we listened to this lecture, and he said, and we always have an affinity, by the way, of lives that we've lived. In other words, your Eskimo life, or a life in France, or a life as a gypsy. We take on so many of the similarities of lives that we've loved. He also, as you well know, was the greatest psychic and prophet that ever lived. I don't care what they want to call him. He was a teacher, he was a prophet. He came with the word, as we say. And as they say, the word was made flesh. He says that the Jews, of which he is and was, and he keeps his Judaicness about him. He says that the Jews have not finished with their suffering, and he finds that to be a terrible. And the same as he's very fearful, only not because of death. Our Lord is not afraid of death for any of us, because he knows we'll just come home. But he's afraid of the suffering of the Thai people. And he's very concerned about the red Chinese that are going to march across the world. Now that part, Aina told a group of people, very much like yourself, maybe, 25 years ago,
Yes.
in a research trance, that someone brought up the Russians, and it's in the file, it's dated, copyrighted, and she said, please do not be afraid of the Russians. The years will come when you will find they will ally you. She said, but be wary of the billions and millions of red soldiers, the red Chinese soldiers that will march across the world. Now, you have a good 10 years before that, and they won't come to your shores, but you're going to see them march on the rest of the world, because you see their philosophy, and it's not their fault, because they've been trained from birth that death is admirable and beneficial. So you think the bonsai was bad or the Harry Carey was bad, you haven't seen anything that will be seen then. They will march in a wave, growing in numbers, because they have no fear. If you mow them down, more will come. It's an unsinkable wave of these people.
In about 10 years from now?
About 10 years, they will start. We're worried, we're watching very carefully now for the Thailand. Because they're, you see, Thailand is getting ready, I'm sure you know, to be free. And the Chinese are, Taiwan is getting ready to be free, and they don't like that. Yes.
Is it going to affect the world, since the Chinese right now are accumulating a lot of power in terms of...
And they're creating so much defense and billions of weapons. You just have to stay close. You can't, if there is a warning before the time, and time skips ahead for us, trust me that I will make sure that you're all aware of it before it happens, at least a few years, that you will go somewhere to the hills or somewhere that you won't be found. We're trying to deflect that. And that's not a fallout of, oh, it didn't happen, because we've been predicting this for at least 25 years, but it's coming too close now. But we're very concerned about the Thailand and the Taiwanese. Yes.
It appears that our policy of being tough, when we are tough, that they have no respect for us. Then if we back down, and our policies of backing down and backing down and backing down haven't worked until recently, when we did when we tried to go in and usurp the war games right in front of Taiwan. It seemed to have worked. Are we going to continue that policy?
Yes. And Clinton is the person to do it. I have no dealings with politics. I don't care one way or the other. If it was Jack Spratt and he was good, I'd say fine. Or whoever it might be. But you don't really want anybody else in there now. Now in 4 years you'll need someone else, but right now you don't want anybody else in there. Because you don't want to change, as Sylvia says, rightly so, you don't want to change horses in midstream.
interesting point about the Chinese government and their involvement or getting around the planet. And it's not about the Chinese people, it's about the Chinese government and who follows the government. And no, I haven't seen them. Yes, there've been conflicts along the borders of China and wanting to take over around the borders. But I thought of something else that falls into this is China's influences, or they're helping other countries develop infrastructure. So they go to
True.
poor countries and loan them money and let them build. Let the Chinese will come in and actually build the infrastructure, highways and train systems to go through the countries, and that can be financially devastating. In I don't want to say all or many, but quite a bit of time it's been it appears that they've paid off government. They make the money, but the people don't. They don't. The people don't benefit from it. But the there's more and more influence from Chinese government into those countries. So that's can be another form of invasion.
That is very true. Oh man, and quite thought about it in those terms, but it's very, very true. Um, Interesting. Oh boy. Well, if anyone has any questions, now's a good time to post them. And just gonna take a quick look at something real quick. Yeah, I thought it was fascinating how you're saying how totems are selected. So if you've ever had somebody tell you what your totem was and it just sounded like a shock, like how the heck did I get a gorilla?
Yeah.
Because my husband's totem is apparently a gorilla. But it makes sense. Like if his first life was in Africa, like, oh, that would make sense if that was an animal that he connected with.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's your first animal love. That's sweet. And similarly with you, with your giraffe, he connected with the giraffe. That's really sweet to think about. So yeah, it's interesting. Alyssa says, I believe Chris told me mine was a zebra. And that's really neat. Thomas shared about the conversation about China's invasion. It's like, what about TikTok? Yeah. Apparently
Potential,
TikTok
yeah.
is yeah.
Potential.
Yeah. Some of our intelligence agencies have been apparently commenting that TikTok has been sending a lot of information back to China, and that could be a source of spyware in some ways. Miss LJ says it says though Raheim's message seems to be ringing through in our time of 2023 with everything that's going on with China and Russia. Yes, very interesting.
And you mentioned last week about the Sylvia's prediction about savings in this time frame.
This time frame too,
I've been meaning to ask what partly out of laziness. What do you recall what book that was in?
It was in. I am confident that it was in Prophecy, and if it wasn't in Prophecy, then it was certainly in End of Days.
Okay, because I'm gonna go look that up for fun, just because of the potential severity of that, and again, not to play doom and gloom, but see how that applies. However, our government is doing what it can to mitigate. Is that the right word? Reduce the effect. Reduce the effect of that. and so we may not be as devastating as it was originally seen.
Yeah, there's just I know that we're running late on time for today, 'cause I've been talking a lot. My apologies. I'll say just two things that raised red flags with me about that whole banking situation. Number one is that of the different failures that have happened, and now including Credit Suisse which is a massive bank that got bought by another massive bank.
Out of the United States.
Yeah, these are out of the United States, right? But the fact that these are like now international things that are happening, and they're happening extremely fast.
Right.
That has me, because they were like, oh, on Thursday, like Silicon Valley Bank is having like a little bit of an issue, and then over like 2 days later, it had failed. It's crazy that happened so fast.
And the bank in New York, Spirit,
the bank in New York.
No, Signature was
Bank
another
happened
New York.
so fast, yeah.
And then, yeah, there's an interesting sort of analogy or description by one of the darn it, I can't remember it now. One of the news outlets. Anyway, the interesting analogy of what causes that. But yes, it got interesting when you mentioned that last week with then the Swiss bank. They had a challenge, and so it's not just those three. It's potential that the other ones are struggling, and for the same reason that they failed, the other ones may be struggling. So we've got anyway a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, which leads me to my second point, super quick. Forbes, the gentleman who runs Forbes magazine, made like a 2-minute video that summarized what he thought that this whole issue was kind of related to, which is that internationally for the past decade, interest rates have been so low that basically there hasn't been any risk management with banks. So banks have been like, sure, I'm lending money. Sure, I'm lending money. Sure, I'm lending money. And not really doing their due diligence to be like, ooh, let me make sure that this is a good investment. Ooh, let me make sure that this is going to be, okay for a longer term, which is any financial problem that we've had in the past, like several decades, has been related to that of just risky lending. And so because interest rates have been super low, it seems like the guy who runs Forbes is saying is like, now we've got this problem where there's probably tons and tons and tons of risky lending that has happened, and now the chicken's coming home to roost. And so
because they're trying to bump the interest rates going up are influencing all of those loans, which is the way I understand it, it's costing banks more money.
Right.
It's creating putting people in the red. So anyway, but we'll see how
fingers
that plays
crossed
out.
that everyone's going to be okay. Yeah, just be mindful. Have your, just think ahead about what you need to do to be safe, just in case, like not having all your eggs in one basket. So that's my thinking anyway.
Yeah.
All right. A couple comments, really quick. Jill says, "Yeah, I better delete TikTok." Well, I know they're getting rid of it off of the government phones for sure. So I think that's really a hot button issue. And other folks are saying like, yeah, real estate, gold and silver might be the way to go. So yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what's a safe investment. I just I know this probably isn't the greatest time to take out a loan for me in my situation, so just keep that in mind. No problem.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. So, meditation time?
Sounds good to me.
Fantastic.
All right.
Some
Find yourself a
positivity.
comfortable place to sit with your feet flat on the floor and your palms upward on your lap to receive that wonderful grace. And for those of you that need to pay attention to what you're doing, don't pay attention to us, but by all means come back and listen to these wonderful meditations in the on demand. And for the rest of us, we are going to get some rejuvenation. Here we go.
Wonderful.
Find yourself a comfortable place to sit with your feet
flat on the floor and your palms upward on your lap. Now, take 3 deep breaths to start relaxing the mind and the body. Now, when you are ready, close your eyes.
The Temple of Quiet. On the other side, the Temple of Quiet is shaped like an octagon and is quite ornate. The floor looks like marble. As you advance to the center of this room, each block that you step on begins to emanate a light. It is almost as if each of your footsteps creates a shaft of light coming up. It is quite lovely with pinks and mauves, purples and greens. When you get to the center of the room, ask for resolution of any problem you may have. Now a beam of light goes right into your third eye from a crystal set into each wall of the octagonal room. When this occurs, a problem begins to be enacted in front of you like a hologram. You observe from the perspective of your higher self. You see many options for dealing with this aggravation or concern in your life. You can now program the ending exactly as you desire. If you are very quiet, you will see the option that's been eluding you. For example, if you do not get the job you think you want, what do you choose to move on to? If you can't get along with a certain person, ask God to show you several options. Ask that they be enacted in front of you, as if on a movie screen. Choose the one that feels best to your higher consciousness. It is often very beneficial to see the worst that can happen played out in front of you. This can readily help you dispel fear and feel in control. You can then reconstruct it so that it works out as you want it to. This fulfills the great conglomerate plan.
Now, on the count of 3, come all the way back to full alertness. 1, 2, 3. Find yourself a
Lovely.
I had an interesting
Octagonal room.
view of envision. I mean, I'm thinking, oh, this is for healing, and it's like, no, you can visualize what the outcome of something, what you want resolved. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So I started visualizing what's next for me, and I thought that's cool, fun, helpful, and that's what we need to be doing for ourselves. What do we see for ourselves, and what do we want to for our own future?
Absolutely.
Well, who are you commenting to?
I was commenting to the YouTube folks because they were talking about paper money, and there's just that financial anxiety. And I said, just as a reminder, Sylvia did say that it was specifically about people's stock market savings, like 401ks. So, yeah, just as a reminder.
That's what I wanted to hear the detail of, because that was actually, I was going to make a suggestion to someone about doing that for what's the word? Avoid capital gains taxes. Or put off capital gains taxes. But that's an interesting point, because most 401ks and IRAs are, if you're going to make money out of it, they're going into stocks somewhere. You apply your stock to something, or somebody is applying your money to stocks. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Post. There we go. Oh, all right. Here we go.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. It's in Prophecy,
Prophecy.
page 140. She says,
Page.
a few words about the economy, and I do mean a few. It goes on to say, uh, America will be much more self-sufficient as individuals and a nation, insisting on providing our own basic necessities and bringing our companies and jobs back home. It's not so much an isolationist period; it's a period of economic and government restructuring. Will turn into an interesting combination of society whose technology is progressing at almost a breakneck speed, and at the same time, a society that's redeveloped and improved our passion for growing our own foods, or sewing our own clothes, building our own furniture and houses. The most conspicuous changes we'll see are the end of IRAs, mutual funds, pensions, retirement plans, and the stock market. I simply wanted to mention it so you can't say I didn't warn you. And as for what it implies about the deficit by then, I'll leave that to you to draw your own conclusions. Cheery.
Wow.
There it is.
I'm
Dang.
glad you read that, because that does that helps what I was considering suggesting.
Sure.
But so
Sure.
it's not about savings accounts. It's
Right,
it's about the
The
investment.
stock market, right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Bank stuff.
But I can also see, the beginning of
Big
that
investments, yeah.
beginning of that sentence and description. That's playing out. We're bringing stuff back to the U.S.
That's true. We are.
So yeah, that's a fun thing to watch.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What
Credits?
Credits, yeah. Something
Novena?
about if you have that's
Oh.
coming. If you have any questions about what we shared, feel free to post in chat or email us questions to Kat, that's K-A-T, at novus.org, or Tom, T-O-M, at novus.org. And of course, we appreciate listeners both live and on demand, so show your appreciation to New Spirit Radio by sharing, promoting, liking, and subscribing. Check out our websites, because you know where we are. Facebook, we are there too. YouTube, we are omnipresent. And let's see, not etherically, just, omnipresent. You can start a study group. You can watch the Sunday services in a variety of fashions. So sign up for them. Put your email on the website and you will get a notice. For the rest of us, now's the novena. For those of you that are new, yes, I'm been speeding this up a tad because we had some fun with discussions here. Novena, everybody's welcome to participate. This is a special prayer service. We, and I will lead you. We will say together this phrase 3 times. The phrase is, I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. So we'll say that together 3 times, and then after each of those, what do you call those? Sessions, segments, something, I'll let you know what we want to ask for. And then we'll say it again 3 times together, and then I'll tell you again what we want to ask for. So just follow along. Doesn't matter when you're listening live or on demand, doesn't matter, because there is no time on the other side. We will all say this together and visualize that we're all together in this large room holding hands together, making this huge ring of persons. Similar to, one of the meditations that were all pearl poppet beads hanging around Mother Azna's neck. So, let's start. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. Now, ask for things for yourself. Okay, next one. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. Now ask for things for others. Okay. And the last one. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. I am God. I am part of God. I am God. All things are possible because I am God. Now, picture our light going out like a beacon for others seeking this spiritual knowledge. And of course, think something you're appreciative of. We want to be appreciative, carries a positive mindset for ourselves. So, write in the comments if you like. Well, I'm reading out what else we'd like to be appreciative of. Of course, show your appreciation to Francine and Raheim for researching all this wonderful knowledge. And of course, Sylvia for coming to this insane asylum of the universe to start this movement and for showing us how to get some peace of mind and grace while we're here. And of course, Azna for helping and protecting us, and Father God for providing the most prestigious school for us to experience, learn, and satisfy our unique spark of curiosity. Appreciate Bob Ingold's help with some of the audio and graphics, and we love Sammy and Javon for the wonderful intro-outro music. Writing, setting up, and hosting is MIT Catherine Taylor. Editing, technical direction is and hosting is Reverend Tom Bigley. Now
Woohoo!
we will get a prayer by Sylvia.
Yay.
Somewhere in here. Oh, that one. All right. That and that. Bingo. Here we go.
Morning prayer. Dearest Mother, protect and guide me throughout this day. Oversee all my actions so that they will be in accordance with my chart, which has been a divine contract between our Father in heaven and myself. Keep my thoughts filled with the holiness of thy will, and knowing this, I will have joy in my heart. Amen.
And Kat's going to tell us.
Don't be afraid to activate on your dreams.
Cool.
You are worth it. Go get it. Take care of yourselves. We love you. Good night.
For so long we have ignored you, as if you were not there. All praise went to the Father. We were so unaware that through the years you've shed your tears for all the pain we bear. Oh, Azna, how we love you. Place no one above you. Always thinking of you. Bless your name. And when I'm feeling down and out, you mend my broken heart. So now I sing this song of thanks because of who you are. Oh, Azna, how we love you. Place no one above you. Always thinking of you. Bless your name. You are Mother God. You're more than a friend to me. You give me everything I need. In your peace you hold me tight. You are the bringer of the light. With no fear we boldly stand. Because you hold this world in your hands. You are the truth. You are the hope and love we never knew. Oh, Azna, how we love you. Place no one above you. Always thinking of you. Bless your name. You are Mother God. Mother